I'm going to use Chapter 9, General Ledger Problem 1, which is based on Problem 9-5 in your book, to demonstrate journal entries for notes receivable. There are 11 journal entries required, so let's go through them and I'll show you the other tabs for this problem too. First, they confuse you right off the bat by giving you 2 transactions for December, but you're not required to record them. These transactions give you information you need to complete the rest of the transactions. These 2 transactions tell you that the company accepted a note from Danny Todd and recorded accrued interest on that note. On February 14th, the company receives payment of the principal and the interest. Debit cash for the entire amount. $10,800 times 8% times 60 divided by 360 plus the original amount loaned. This will give you a total of $10,944. You have to break that interest up into what was already accrued and what is revenue for this period. There were 15 days in 2014 during which the note accrued interest. This is one of the entries you didn't have to do, so think about it. You would have recorded interest receivable and interest revenue for 15 days for a total of $36. This interest is now being collected, so you have to credit interest receivable for that amount and record revenue for the 45 days in 2015. 10,800 times 8% times 45 over 360 equals 108. Credit that amount and then credit notes receivable for the principal the $10,800. That was a lot of work. On March 2nd, the company accepts a note from Midnight Company to grant a time extension. Record notes receivable for the principal and credit accounts receivable for the same amount. It's simply moving the amount from one account to another. On March 17th, the company accepts a note granting Ava Privet a time extension on her account receivable. This is the same entry you did for the last one, just the amounts are different. On April 16th, Privet dishonors her note. Pretty rude if you ask me. Record this by debiting accounts receivable for the amount of the note plus the interest, credit interest revenue, and credit notes receivable. Calculate the interest as you have done previously. Plug your numbers into the correct slots on the Calculation of Interest tab. Privet is here. On May 31st, Midnight Company refuses to pay. Seriously, rude. Record this the same way you did the last one. On July 17th, receive payment from Midnight Company for the maturity value of its dishonored note, plus interest for 46 days beyond maturity at 8%. On July 16th, Midnight Company decides to pay up. Companies collect interest from the day that the note was dishonored. In this case, they tell you it's 46 days. And they collect interest on the maturity value plus the interest that had already accrued. Let's work this out. The original note was for $6,100. The interest that had accrued on that was $122. The total owed was then $62.22. For this transaction, you will take the $62.22 and multiply it by 8% for 46 days. This gives you another $64 in interest. The transaction is then a debit to cash for $68.26. A credit to notes receivable for $62.22, and another credit to interest revenue for $64. On August 7th, which is Max's birthday, by the way, another note is accepted from Milan Company. Record this as you've done before. On September 3rd, another note is accepted from Noah Carson. On November 2nd, payment is received from Carson. Again, you have to calculate your interest. $2,100 times 10% times 60 over 360 equals 35. On November 5th, receive payment from Milan. Interest is calculated as $74.50 times 10% times 90 over 360 for a total of $186.25. Debit cash. I can't add that in my head. And finally, on December 1st, they write off Privet's account, debit the allowance, credit the account receivable for $24.14. You can check the interest numbers by plugging them into the last tab.